When I see headlines like Dave Chappelle is obsessed with the trans community, no, actually I would say the trans community is obsessed with Dave Chappelle. I have a problem with when people talk about punching down versus punching up, because as a brown gay man, I'm supposed to accept that I am inherently down from certain people. Why don't you just admit that you're upset because you've told Dave Chappelle over and over what he's not allowed to talk about, and Dave Chappelle has told you over and over, you're not going to police my speech. Dave Chappelle is back at it again, and so are the trans activists. What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, so I watched Dave Chappelle's new special, Dreamer is what it's called. For anybody that's wondering why the background is different, I'm staying in a condo in Las Vegas because I'm performing here at Wise Guys this weekend. By the time this comes out, I will be done performing here, so there's no reason to promote it. Before we go any further, I'm just gonna ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to comment just to help me on the algorithm and you don't know what to comment, just put a microphone, because we're talking about stand-up, and why wouldn't you put a microphone? If you want, you could put a knife, because you know that they are going to come for my neck. Anyway, let's get into this video. But I watched Dreamer last night, and the only reason I even knew Dave Chappelle had a new special out was because the LGBT community is already offended by it, and they were the ones that let me know. So what you have to understand is that by trying to make a big deal out of this, you really are promoting Dave Chappelle's special. I am not lying to you even a little bit when I say I would not have known this special was out if the activists hadn't been so upset about it, which I don't understand what they're upset about. Some of the headlines I saw about it were more than a little annoying to me, especially as a stand-up comedian. And one thing that I hate when these kinds of things happen is that everybody that doesn't do stand-up comedy, which I've been doing for going on 21 years now, has to chime in and tell everybody what the job of a stand-up comedian is. These people never understand what the job of a stand-up comedian is. The job of a stand-up comedian is to make people laugh. And even that isn't necessarily the number one job of a stand-up comedian, even though that's what you would think it would be, because some of the best stand-up hasn't always been the most quote-unquote funny. Like, just as far as how many laughs per minute is a comedian getting, sometimes that's not very important. Sometimes it'll be quite a bit of the joke that actually isn't funny and is just informational and is more in the storytelling vein. And then you get to the punchline, and in those jokes, a lot of times the punchline has to be bigger to be the payoff for you putting up with that story. So really, the job of a stand-up comedian is to put asses in seats. Sometimes comedians get mad because TikTok stars are taking over the comedy world. They're in all the comedy clubs. Yeah, that's because you may be the funniest person in the world, but if nobody's gonna buy tickets, nobody's gonna buy food, nobody's gonna buy drinks, you basically don't have a job. If you don't understand the way business works, then you just don't understand the way business works. Stand-up comedy is a part of show business. You may not like it. I don't know, take it up at the next town hall meeting. That's just the way that it works. So that's the number one job, really. But the second job is definitely to entertain people and to make them laugh. Dave Chappelle definitely does do that. But when I see people saying the job of a stand-up comedian is to speak truth to power, the job of a stand-up comedian is to punch up, not punch down. No, it definitely is not the job of a stand-up comedian to do any of those things. A comedian can punch in any direction they want as long as their audience is willing to listen to it. Also, I have a problem with when people talk about punching down versus punching up, because as a brown gay man, I'm supposed to accept that I am inherently down from certain people. And in a lot of cases, the people that I'm supposed to be quote unquote down from are supposed to be straight white males. But what if I'm funnier than a straight white male? What if I'm in better shape than a straight white male? What if I come from a better family than a straight white male? Is that straight white male still above me just because they're straight and white? Am I still beneath people just because I'm brown and gay? And to what degree am I supposed to accept this? And is this not self-defeating behavior or thinking when it comes to the LGBTQ community? Is it not self-defeating to think that just because you're trans or LGBT in general, that means that you are inherently constantly down from other people and down from Dave Chappelle. Why should anybody feel like they're below or beneath Dave Chappelle just because he's a comedian, or the amount of money that he makes, or what is it that's supposed to make all of us in the position of down from Dave Chappelle? I think that's a question that the LGBTQ community needs to ask itself. Why is it that we're in such a hurry to be considered less than other people, and why has that turned into our biggest form of monetization or any kind of recognition in this country, is to constantly be considered victims? I don't consider myself a victim. I don't think of myself as being beneath other people. And also, I think Dave Chappelle presents as exactly what he is, which is a straight black man living in the United States of America. So I feel like when the LGBT community gets upset with Dave Chappelle for some of the ways that he jokes, I think that they also need to remember that on the other side, you do have women that sometimes get upset with people in the LGBTQ community, specifically the trans community, because they present themselves as being actual women. At least Dave Chappelle says, I am a black man. These are my opinions as a black man living in the United States of America, having had to deal with certain groups and what my experiences have been with these particular groups. Where in cases like Dylan Mulvaney will tell women, I am a woman too. You need to accept me as being a woman, and then makes all these jokes on TikTok about what his perception of a woman is. So to me, that is more offensive to a particular group, and I still don't necessarily think that that's punching down, because I think at this particular time in society, a lot of women are in positions of power too, and aren't necessarily down from Dylan Mulvaney just because he is a white man. Even though I know that Dylan Mulvaney would describe himself as a woman, he definitely is not a woman. He is a white man pretending to be a woman. So I really think that when it comes to the LGBTQ community, we need to think about why it is we're saying the things we're saying, and whether or not these things carry weight in today's society, or if we're talking from the perspective of maybe the 80s or the 90s, when there was a lot more negativity towards LGBTQ. Because to me, at this point, a lot of the negativity that's being put on the LGBTQ community is a result of things that the LGBTQ activists are trying to push, and rather than it being just people attacking the LGBTQ community, it really is people reacting to and pushing back on things that the activists are trying to make seem like they're the most important things in the world, or that mainstream society is just supposed to accept. Not everybody's going to accept everything that you want them to accept. Also, in the vein of punching down, when it comes to the jokes about people with disabilities, I didn't see anything wrong with those jokes, and I think it's only people that don't have friends or aren't related to anybody with a disability that really had a problem with these jokes. Because if you don't know, it's pretty well documented. I'm good friends with Aaron Belial. If you're not familiar with Aaron Belial, he was on the most recent season of America's Got Talent. He's got cerebral palsy. He's also mute. When I'm with Aaron, and when me and the other comedians are with Aaron, we all joke with Aaron like he's anybody else. That's what inclusion is. If you want to be included, but we're allowed to joke with everybody but you, or joke about everybody but you, then that's not inclusion. That's us treating you like you're a protected class, which when it comes to people like me and the people I know, nobody's going to accept you as a protected class. When I hang out with my friends, which I do hang out with a lot of straight white males, just the way my life works, just the way that comedy works, they'll make jokes about me being Mexican. They'll make jokes about me being gay. I'll make jokes about them being white and boring. I'll make jokes about them not being able to take the license that I'm able to take in my stand-up, and the chances that I'm able to take in my stand-up, because they are straight white males. And they know in certain ways society has their hands tied, and they're willing to accept that, and they do not make those jokes. Do I think that they should have to accept that? Not necessarily, but am I going to take advantage and really whoop their ass in stand-up when it comes down to it because I know that I'm allowed to take licenses that they're not? Most definitely I will. And that's a part of being a person of color as well as a gay man in this society, is that I do get to take advantage of certain things and talk about certain things that maybe society wouldn't be as easy to take from them, and I take full advantage of that, which to me puts me in a position of being above, you could say, when it comes to stand-up, because I'm able to take licenses that they're not able to take. But when it comes to specifically the disability situation, Dave made jokes, but if you really think about his jokes, you could also take from it that maybe we need to reconsider the way that we're treating handicapped people or people with disabilities in this country. Like when he mentions that they're usually sitting in the back.
There's probably a handicap in the back right now because that's where they usually make them sit.
I think that's kind of a subtle jab at society for literally always putting handicapped people in the back where they aren't necessarily going to get the best view of the show. They don't necessarily have the options that the rest of us have. And I think that if people paid attention to that part rather than getting in their feelings about the fact that he did a joke about the way certain people with disabilities walk, guess what? I've met a lot of handicapped people that walk like that. To me, that isn't making fun of anybody. It isn't being mean. It's just doing a good impression of the way a lot of people with disabilities walk. Specifically, cerebral palsy is what I've noticed that walk tends to come with. I also was friends with Davey Wester, who's another comedian that used to be in the LA area. I think he's back in the Pacific Northwest now. He also was cerebral palsy. He walked the same way. I had another friend that had muscular dystrophy. I was roommates with him for a while. He walked the same way. So really, I don't know what it is everybody's so offended about. And I think people just want to be offended to be offended. And I think some people just don't want to let Dave Chappelle off the hook and just want to continue to harp on the fact that Dave Chappelle shouldn't say this and Dave Chappelle shouldn't say that. Why don't you just admit that you're upset because you've told Dave Chappelle over and over what he's not allowed to talk about, and Dave Chappelle has told you over and over, you're not going to police my speech. I don't care what you think of what it is I'm saying. If my audience goes for it, if the people that are paying attention to me enjoy it, if Netflix is willing to pay for it, I don't care what you think. You can be as mad as you want. You can have all the feelings you want. It doesn't mean people are going to stop doing what they're doing, just like Dylan Mulvaney isn't going to stop doing what he's doing. The difference is where the LGBT community tries to get Dave Chappelle canceled, the straight community, or women specifically, don't necessarily try to get Dylan Mulvaney canceled. They're just not buying the products that he endorses. And if you really want to know how you make change or how you let people know that you're not supporting something that they're putting out, you just don't watch it. Not you hate watch it and then tell the entire world how upset you are about this particular thing you saw, which then makes them want to watch it too. Because at that point, you are unintentionally promoting the very thing that you claim to hate so much. And I'm still not sure why it is so many people can't wrap their brains around this concept. I'm still not sure why it is so many people want everybody else to join them in whatever feelings it is they're having about whatever particular piece of art it is that they're trying to get canceled today. But it's not going to be any more effective than it's been at any other time. And when I see headlines like Dave Chappelle is obsessed with the trans community, no, actually I would say the trans community is obsessed with Dave Chappelle. Otherwise, I wouldn't be constantly hearing about Dave Chappelle from the trans community. I definitely hear more about Dave Chappelle from the trans community than I hear about the trans community from Dave Chappelle. Because the trans community will put out article after article after TikTok, Instagram reel after Instagram reel, Facebook post after Facebook post about Dave Chappelle, while Dave Chappelle will put out one special every couple of years where he references the trans community. And I think what really bothers the trans community is the trans community, on at least a subconscious level, think that Dave Chappelle is down from them. So when they smack down and tell Dave Chappelle, you're not supposed to talk about this, Dave Chappelle is just supposed to accept that he's not supposed to talk about that. And Dave Chappelle refuses to accept that down position, refuses to accept that the LGBTQ activists are supposed to be above him, and just says, I'm going to go ahead and talk about what I want to talk about anyway. And nothing triggers an activist more than you telling them that they have no power over you and you are not going to pay attention to what it is they're telling you you're going to do and say, and you're not going to do and say the way that they're telling you you need to do and say. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.